So let's talk about therapy. We're going to dive into the story of this one professor who looked at a huge problem right at the heart of the field. He saw a whole area of therapy kind of torn between two different identities. And you know what he did? He decided to rebuild it from the ground up. The goal? To turn it into something powerful, something that actually has the evidence to back it up for the 21st century.
And at the center of this whole story is a really big question, one that's been hanging over the creative arts therapies for decades. Is this stuff just art? Is it all about that spontaneous, intuitive connection? Or is it a science? Is it about getting results you can actually measure and repeat? And believe me, this isn't just some dusty academic debate. The answer to this question, it decides how therapy gets done, who pays for it, and whether people can even trust it.
Yeah, and this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's the great divide. On one side, you've got what we could call the magic, that intuitive, spontaneous, artistic soul of the practice. But on the other side, there's the mechanism. That's the demand for measurable, repeatable, scientific proof, the kind of thing modern healthcare absolutely requires. And for the longest time, it felt like these two worlds were just completely at odds. You couldn't have both.
So, that's the big question, right? How in the world do you bridge a gap like that? Well, this is exactly where Professor Orkibi comes into the picture. He saw this divide during his own training and just became totally determined to prove that actually, these two sides aren't enemies at all. In fact, he believed they could be incredibly powerful allies.
And this wasn't just a side project for him. No way. This became his life's work. He wasn't just trying to, publish a few extra studies. His mission was way bigger. He wanted to fundamentally re-engineer the entire field's DNA. His goal was to find the hard science hiding inside the art, and then prove to the whole world just how effective it could be.
Okay, so how did he start? Well, his first huge breakthrough was to create a whole new theory, a new way of thinking about creativity itself. And this is key. He wasn't talking about creativity for artists. He was talking about creativity for everyone, especially when we're going through a tough time.
And this is it. The core idea is called creative adaptability. And right away, let's be clear, this has nothing to do with painting a masterpiece or writing a symphony. Orkibi's definition is all about our personal ability to generate new thoughts, new behaviors, and even new emotional responses when we're really under stress. It's a huge shift from just bouncing back from something, which is kind of passive, right? This is about actively moving forward.
But here's what's so cool about it. He took this really powerful idea and made it super simple, super accessible. He boiled it all down to just one number, 1.5. So, what on earth does that mean?
It's something he calls the 1.5 criterion. So think about it. The standard view of creativity, let's call it version 2.0, says an idea has to be brand new to the entire world and it has to be proven effective. I mean, that's a crazy high bar, right? Most of us can't do that. But Orkibi's 1.5 view is a game changer. For you to be creatively adaptive, the idea just has to be new to you, and it only has to be potentially effective. You just have to be willing to try it. See that shift? It basically democratizes creativity. It takes it from being some elite talent only a few people have and turns it into a fundamental survival skill that every single one of us has.
And to make this something you can actually measure and work with, he broke it down into 3 parts. First, there's cognitive. That's just coming up with a new way to think about a problem. Then you've got behavioral. That's trying a new action, actually doing something different. And finally, emotional, which is about generating a new feeling about the situation. You put those 3 together, and you've got a complete psychological response.
Now, this wasn't just some nice idea on paper. When the COVID-19 pandemic turned the world upside down, it became the ultimate real-world test for this theory. And the results? They were absolutely striking. What they found was that people with higher levels of creative adaptability were basically protected from a lot of the mental distress of the pandemic. It wasn't the fear of the virus itself that caused all the anxiety. It was the lack of this creative adaptability that was the real problem. In a way, it acted like a psychological vaccine.
Okay, so he's got this rock-solid theory. What's next? He needed a practical tool, something therapists could actually use. So, Professor Orkibi looked at one of the most common tools in family therapy and thought, you know what? I can bring this thing to life. For a long, long time, therapists have used this thing called the kinetic family drawing. Basically, you ask a kid to draw their family doing something. And yeah, it's useful, but Orkibi saw a huge flaw. It's just a snapshot, a single picture completely frozen in time. It shows you who is in the family, but it doesn't show you how they move, how they talk to each other, how they argue. none of the dynamics.
So what did he do? He developed the Kinetic Family in Action, the KFIA for short. And you can see how it works right here. It's this awesome 4-step process that basically thaws out that frozen picture. You start with the drawing, sure, but then you write a little script for what's happening, and then, and this is the really groundbreaking part, you actually act it out. You bring it to life with drama therapy. And after that, you talk about it, you process it. You go from a still photo to a living, breathing movie.
Now, great ideas and cool tools are one thing, but their real test is always out there, in the real world. And Professor Orkibi's work isn't just stuck in a lab somewhere. It's actively changing lives because it tackles a really critical gap in our mental health system.
See, his work zeroed in on this huge problem, especially for young people. They go into a hospital, they get treatment, they get stabilized, and then they're sent back home into, well, often a total void of social connection. And what happens? It creates this awful revolving door where they just end up back in the hospital again. The treatment they got inside the clinic just wasn't sticking once they got out.
So, to try and fix this, he got involved with a program in Israel called Amitim for Youth. And get this, instead of just more therapy, the program got these kids involved in regular community stuff, like a soccer team or a theater group. The results were just profound. It all came down to this incredible shift in their identity. They went from thinking, I am sick, to thinking, I am a creative person who just happens to have a condition. That's a huge difference.
And it wasn't a one-off. Another program called The Garage pretty much proved the same thing. This one gave professional-level arts training to adults with severe mental illness. And if you look at the results here, it's so clear. It didn't just teach them how to paint or act. It massively boosted their belief in themselves as creative people. And at the same time, it just crushed their feelings of loneliness. The takeaway is massive. Taking part in high-quality art isn't just a nice activity. It is, in itself, an incredibly powerful form of rehabilitation.
So when you put it all together, the groundbreaking theory, the innovative tools, the real-world community programs, you can see how Professor Orkibi's work is really starting to reshape the entire field. He's not just another researcher. He's literally writing the next act for this profession.
And he didn't do it alone. A huge part of this has been building a global network. For instance, he created this powerful transatlantic alliance with Dr. Nisha Sajnani at NYU. He also put out these gold standard systematic reviews, the kind of hard evidence that insurance companies and hospitals absolutely demand. He's also been a huge champion for drama as this super user-friendly art form that almost anyone can get into. He's even taken the old ideas of psychodrama and given them a 21st century upgrade, keeping all the humanistic soul but backing it up with real scientific rigor.
And all of this is why the monograph that celebrates his work gives him this perfect title, The Field's Dramaturg. If you don't know, a dramaturg is the person in a theater who digs into the script, figures out how the whole performance works, and helps shape where it's going next. And honestly, that's a perfect description of what Professor Orkibi has done for creative arts therapy.
Which brings us to a final, really big thought to leave you with. Professor Orkibi's work really seems to prove that creativity isn't just a nice hobby or some special talent. It's a fundamental mechanism, something practically hardwired into us for survival. So it makes you wonder, right? What if creativity, our ability to imagine a different way of being, and then actually take steps to make it happen, what if that's our ultimate human adaptation?